Welcome to The Fire Within, the Okanagan's weekly entrepreneurship talk show where we visit genuine Okanagan entrepreneurs and discover their entrepreneurial spirit. This week and on this show, we've got two guests tonight that are going to share their entrepreneurial journeys. And guess what? I happen to know them both personally because the set that we have for our show, they're letting us use that for the series since the beginning. I'd like to introduce Roy Collins and Carmen Sparg from Total Office Systems in beautiful downtown Kelowna, where it's happening. How did I do with that? Thank you for coming. Every time I hear that on the radio in the morning, Kelowna, where it's at, I don't know, where it's happening. I think, well, what's happening? I like to start off our evening tonight on the show, Carmen and Roy, to have each of you take a turn and tell our viewers a little bit about yourselves. And then we'll get into the story about Total Office and delve into that before we say goodnight. In other words, the road. I've met you before. I did an article on you in my newspaper column, so I know a little bit about your background.
That's right.
And the viewers will be interested to know. And Roy, a little bit about you, because you just got finished telling me you've been here for around 25 years. And I want to use the word pioneer, an Okanagan pioneer. Look at the smile on his face. Yeah.
Well,
Let's start with you.
Well, I moved here in 1988. I grew up in North Vancouver.
Okay.
And when I graduated from university, I met lots of people from the interior, and none of them were coming back. And I thought, well, there must be an opportunity there that had been really recessed here from, in the early 80s. And I thought, well, it's an area that's going to grow. And basically in North Vancouver and in Vancouver, housing prices had just gone through the roof. Mm-hmm. So moved up here, and I started work with Royal Trust for the first, I think 3 or 4 years that I was here in their trust and investment department. But from when I was young, I always wanted to own my own business.
Good show. Carmen.
Yes.
A little snapshot. We'll get into a little bit more about your backgrounds after, but a little snapshot of how did Carmen get to be sitting here in beautiful downtown Kelowna?
Well, as you can hear from my accent, I'm originally from Saskatoon. I was born in Zimbabwe.
Oh, that was a good one.
I was born in Zimbabwe and finished my education off in South Africa, and then lived around Europe for a few years, and came to Kelowna, 13 years ago now.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
from Vancouver, though, not?
No, came directly here, actually. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that part, I forgot about that part.
Yeah.
What I want to ask both of you, and I think it's important for our viewing audience to identify, given your backgrounds, like after you finished your educational experiences and did some work experience, you can share that if you feel so inclined, what led you as individuals, as individuals, to the furniture industry, the office furniture industry? Roy?
Well, I had a friend in the business who I went to work with, and then
Here?
a friend in Vancouver, but I worked for a branch office here.
Okay.
And in 2003, I met up with my former partner who had the company, which was called Topps Office Furniture at the time. And,
Okay, I remember that.
and so
I
went
remember
there.
that.
You remember that?
Yes.
And so I went there and kind of went to work with him, and at the time it was a pretty small operation, and it was just, there were 2 or 3 of them, and so we bounced some ideas back and forth and how we might grow the business and how we might have more of an impact in the local market. And a year later, I ended up buying in 50% of the company with Brian, and one of the first people we hired was Carmen.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
That's right.
Well, there you go. And as they say, the rest is history. So how long now have the two of you been partners in Total Office Furniture? No, Total Office Systems. Am I saying it correctly?
Well, we have an umbrella company called Total Interiors.
Yes.
And beneath that umbrella company, we do, it is Total Office, and then we have Total Hospitality, Total Education, and Total
Group.
Healthcare. That's correct. Yeah. So we
Group.
do. Yeah. So we look after many of those.
Total Healthcare?
yes. Many of
Oh,
those vertical markets.
Is
yeah.
that fairly new, total healthcare?
No, it's something that we started to do, and we have worked with IHA a little bit, and it's
Yeah.
certainly something that, as far as that division goes, that we have intent on growing quite a bit in the next
Okay.
few years.
You see that as an opportunity in the marketplace,
Absolutely.
the healthcare
Absolutely.
industry.
So Carmen and I have owned the business together since 2009.
Okay, thank you.
And 2 years ago, we wanted to go into the education market,
Yep,
but we didn't want to go into the education market as Total Office, so we branded Total Education, which is environments for education. And all of the businesses are based around furniture, but for the individual markets, we wanted to have a brand where we could position ourselves as experts. So in the education market, we trade as Total Education.
but since you were, Roy, since you had started in the furniture industry or office furniture industry prior to Carmen, what attracted you to the office furnishing industry?
Well, I liked that it was a product that you could differentiate in the market. In the office business, you deal with business owners, so I like the clientele.
Yeah.
And we do a fair bit of planning and some other things and try and find out how we can make people more efficient as part of the planning on the office side, and I like that.
Mm-hmm. And you, if I may use the term, you kind of rolled into the industry when you became employed by Roy here in Kelowna.
That's correct. It certainly wasn't something that I had thought about prior to that, and I had absolutely no idea what a technical business it was until I got involved with it. So when I started out, I was doing the CAD specification for them, so
Okay.
space planning, and then you kind of work out what the client wants. You do a workflow analysis with them, and then try and incorporate your product lines to develop or embrace their corporate culture. So I like that side of it
Okay.
too.
I want to ask you now, Carmen, maybe this is a good time for me to ask you a little bit about your background.
Sure.
Okay, from Zimbabwe to South Africa to Europe to Canada. Can you share some of your work experiences that led you to develop the skills that allowed you to make the fit into the office furnishings industry? I'll spit it out.
Good, yeah. Well, I would say right from the first employment that I ever had, I worked for a sign writing company actually. And that's when I first got introduced to CAD, and it was still before the days of mice even. We didn't even have a mouse, we had a digitizer, so it was really archaic software.
I actually remember that as well.
And so that's when I got introduced to CAD, and that kind of led into doing chassis designs for we manufactured, I worked for a company that manufactured televisions, so I did the chassis designs for that on CAD. So all the way through that has been the threading cord. So then after that I worked for another electronics company, and then in Europe I furthered my courses in CAD before I came here. So then I worked for a structural engineering company when I first came here, and about a year later is how I got involved with Total Office at the time.
Okay. What is the marketplace today? How has, before we start, how has the market changed for the two of you since you became partners? How has it changed for you to today? From when you started in 2009 to today, and maybe you can just throw in, how do you see it changing for tomorrow? For example, you've mentioned the healthcare field. You're looking at that as a new, for want of a better term, a new niche, perhaps, for Total. Can you elaborate on that? How it's changed for you? When you started, Roy, when you started, you were focusing on something, and then over the last couple of years, you've embellished that. Am I fair with that statement? And now you're at a crossroad of saying, okay, we can do new things, and you just touched on some of the new avenues or channels that you're going to be embarking on or have embarked on.
Well, the funny thing is, in 2008, the market in Canada and the United States changed, and there was a huge kind of recession across a whole bunch of industries.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, still in 2009, we were incredibly busy. And so I basically, in 2008 and 2009, we were growing and busy. And I basically had to turn off the TV and stop reading the newspapers because we were just flat out, it was all we could do to keep up with things. And yet when you turned on the TV or read the newspaper, all you were hearing was doom and gloom. And so, you know, we prepared for the time that we could see coming, but at the time that lots of other markets had stopped, we were flying and just flat out. And so it was, I just kept kind of touching wood and hoping it wouldn't end. But at the same time, we were looking at different things. And so in 2009, we were totally focused on the office market. And we said to ourselves that we need to diversify, and that's why we branched out and did the total education, total healthcare, total hospitality, and total installations.
That's when you started in 2009.
Yeah,
Changed.
when we bought out partners and had the business to ourselves, we just wanted to see a way to grow beyond the Okanagan and to grow into other industries. And there are so many hotels and restaurants in the Okanagan that we branded Total Hospitality and have done suites at some of the hotels and had a trailer load of couches going into another resort in the past month. And the total education has really taken traction. We have a German product line, and it was probably last year 35% of our sales.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
And we have that for the province,
Yeah.
the education line.
So to some degree, I think I hear you saying, in your market, sometimes things happen when you least expect them, if I may say it that way. All of a sudden, you decide to try something, and then you're overwhelmed because, by gosh, it works. Is that a fair statement?
Well, the total education is that, and that's just from someone coming to the showroom and wanting a product, and I said, well, I can try and find that for you.
Okay.
And I found the North American distributor in Charlotte, and went and saw a guy on Vancouver Island who's the Canadian rep, and said, wow, that's fantastic. And so we brought in samples, and Carmen's really been running. She's been to the plant in Germany. And,
for heaven's sakes,
and been running the total education line. It's been
that
quite
would be
interesting.
exciting. That would be exciting for you.
Yeah.
You like that, don't you?
I certainly do, yeah.
I think you like that. Okay, and how, let's go in now into the length and breadth of the marketplace. How wide do you cast your net based here in the Okanagan for your products? How far and wide is the different divisions, if I may use that term, the different divisions of the total group?
Yeah, it's restricted by geographic area with certain brands. However, we do service all of BC. So if you took portions of our different brands, we have brands that we can deliver to all of BC, and then we have other brands where we're restricted territorially.
Okay, okay. And that's normal in the industry, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Territorial-wise.
That's
okay.
right.
What do you see for the horizon that's new and exciting for? And entrepreneurship deals with innovation and creativity, and I think I'm hearing already for our viewing audience, innovation and creativity. You want to try new things. You're eager to try new things because it's the nature of your industry. Is that a fair statement?
That's right.
It's the very nature of the industry.
Absolutely.
You can't sit on the sidelines and expect miracles. You have to find the miracles and then allow them to happen.
Well, one of our little things that we did since September is part of the educational line. We have this little hockey stool. Hockey is German for ottoman, and there's four sizes and 5 colors. So there's 20 SKUs, and we said, okay, well, this is the perfect thing to test an online store with.
Oh, for heaven's sake!
And so we've launched an online store to just sell the one product, 4 sizes, 5 colors. And I don't know how many sales we actually have from the online store right now, but the hockey chairs, there's orders going out every day.
Oh, for heaven's
And
sakes.
for the most part, they just ship can to post, which is a little different than the way because most of our products we deliver and install.
That's right.
But in this case, it's
How big are these chairs?
well,
They come in 4 sizes actually, so they're 13, 15, 18, up to 20 inch. And the 20
Okay,
inch would be,
okay.
for adults and
Yes,
right
yes,
down to
okay.
the 13 inch, yeah.
Since I want to couch my question. So I'm going to choose the time that you joined hands as partners in total. I want to choose that as my question. From the time you joined hands in total, have you experienced any particular obstacles and constraints that impeded to some degree your moving forward as partners in the office furniture industry?
Daily, but that's what keeps us going. Because every day there's challenges.
Give us some. Can you give our viewers some instances of obstacles and constraints
in terms of running the business?
in terms of the marketplace, in terms of sales?
Well, like one of the things that causes me great pain is when we have a relationship with a manufacturer and others are allowed into our territory.
Oh, okay.
And so
Yeah.
sometimes what happens on jobs is that there's an architect who is out of our geographic area and they
Yeah.
have relationships with other people,
Yeah.
but the job's in our area and it should be ours.
Yes.
So
yes.
it's like,
But the manufacturer is allowing, because of the relationship with the architect, the manufacturer is allowing.
yeah, and there was a credit union north of here that did a new facility
Yeah.
this year, and they used an architect out of Vancouver, and they spent nothing with any of the local dealers, and that drives me crazy because
Yeah, it
it's
would-
a credit union,
It would drive me crazy too.
and they're supposed to be spending money in the community.
That's
and
right.
If we're
That's
not
right.
right in their backyard, they should have placed
Supposedly that's part of their mandate.
well, they should have directed the architect
Yeah.
to spend the money locally,
Exactly.
rather
Exactly.
than with
Okay.
dealers out of Vancouver. That
Yeah.
drives me crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
And a huge portion of our clientele is designers and architects, and I know that many of the designers have the same concerns because they have the expertise to be able to deliver a wonderful service, and yet there's a perception that because it's local that they don't have that. So often companies will outsource those services to the Vancouver market,
Okay,
for instance,
okay.
with the belief that they're going to get a better service.
Okay.
And in a couple of instances, there were architects and designers locally who could have done the jobs. And for those companies not to put their focus on local, I think in my mind was short-sighted, and they should have allowed people here the opportunity to do the jobs for them.
Can either one of you, can both of you identify and share with our viewers a particular triumphant moment in the journey that you've had since you became partners in your industry? A particular powerful triumphant moment that puts that Roy Collins smile on your face.
Well, I know one of the hardest things is we had partners in the business who we didn't necessarily have a common work ethic and goal, and to amicably come up with a buyout agreement that worked for all of us and left us with the company here was a particular triumph in my mind.
Yeah, that would, yeah.
It just, and we managed to get a deal done without, spending a whole bunch on legal fees or having it, because infighting between partners can take a business down very quickly.
Oh, can it ever?
And so that was in 2009, and every day there's a new, win of some sort or another, no matter how small. It's just the joys of owning your own business and,
Yep.
finding the right fit with people and products.
Okay, it's interesting you should say it that way because I feel the very same way in terms of my world, the world that I travel within, and that I like. To me, even small victories are still victories.
Yes.
So, in other words, no matter how big or small, when the little victories count too,
Yes.
in the overall scheme of things. We're running out of time just about, but I want to ask another question that I've feel would be important for the viewers, if they've never been to your place, if they've never met you, if they've never purchased any furniture from your facility. What advice would either one of you give to aspiring entrepreneurs? Any advice that you give to those people out there in our viewing audience who have this little dream of becoming self-employed and becoming, in essence, entrepreneurial? Carmen, would you want to start, please?
Yeah, certainly. I would definitely say perseverance, because being an entrepreneur, it's no easy road, as you know.
That's right.
And every day is a challenge, but as you say, every day there's joy, and I think that as long as you keep persevering, then that's the thing that kind of keeps you inspired as well as innovating. What would you say, Roy?
Well, it's funny. The perseverance is one of, I think I have 5 things on my computer screen that I look at. Perseverance is one of them, and the other one is do it for life, and that related to other things. But it's just, I think, just having a vision and really following through with it, and knowing that it's not going to necessarily come easily, but if you persevere, it will.
When I talk to others over the years or by researching the world of entrepreneurship, the world is full of ideas. And what you do with those ideas, it takes a lot of research and a lot of effort and development to take that idea and assemble it to the point of being an entrepreneurial opportunity for you, an opportunity. So from an idea to the opportunity, and then more important than anything else, to actually do something with it. You can have a 50-page business plan where you've convinced yourself that in that 50-page business plan, you have your future. But until you actually take some action, maybe overcome your normal fear to take the first step, it'll remain for the rest of existence just an idea. Okay, I think we have to say goodnight tonight, and thank you so much for coming, both of you. I'm sure our viewing audience would like to know, how do the viewers get in touch with either one of you in your place of business? Roy, do you want to tell the camera?
Sure. Well, our website is totalinteriors.ca.
Nice, not too fast.
Totalinteriors.ca.
Okay.
And we are located at 420 Banks Road in Kelowna.
420 Banks Road in Kelowna. I invite you, the viewing audience, to check out Carmen and Roy's facility. I've been there several times, and it's a joy and it's a treat to learn about the services and the capability in terms of office products and the other related products in their entrepreneurial venture. Thank you very much for coming again.
Thank you.
Talk soon.
Thanks very much.
Good night.
Good night.
Well, that's it for the Fire Within for this week. We'll talk to you again next week. I'm Joel Young, your host. Good night. Until next time.